Today, I want to talk about something many of us have either experienced firsthand or witnessed in others: the confusing and painful aftermath of being hurt by a narcissist. On the surface, narcissists often appear indifferent, even proud, after causing emotional damage. But beneath that armor of superiority and control lies a reality they'll never openly admit. Narcissists are masters of image of appearing unaffected, dominant, and in control. But that's not the whole story. Behind the facade, they often wrestle with emotions they don't understand or can't tolerate: shame, insecurity, and even guilt. However, admitting these feelings would destroy the very illusion they work so hard to maintain. One of the most misunderstood emotional responses of a narcissist is shame. It's important to distinguish shame from guilt or remorse, which are often assumed to be natural reactions after someone causes harm. A narcissist rarely, if ever, feels genuine remorse, the kind that leads someone to take accountability and seek to make amends. Instead, what they experience is shame, and it operates on an entirely different level. Shame for a narcissist is not about feeling bad for what they did to you. It's about feeling bad, horrified even, at the thought of being exposed or seen as flawed. Their entire psychological defense system is built on the illusion of superiority, perfection, and control. So when they hurt someone, any crack in that image threatens the false self they've worked so hard to build. This shame doesn't manifest in tears or apologies. Instead, it often shows up as defensiveness, rage, or denial. If you confront them about the pain they caused, you may notice how quickly they turn the tables. They might blame you, accuse you of overreacting, or act as if nothing happened. These behaviors aren't just cruelty or manipulation, though they certainly feel that way. They're also signs of internal panic. Deep down, they're trying to bury that shame because they simply don't know how to process it. What makes this dynamic even more painful is that the narcissist's shame often leads them to re-victimize the person they've already hurt. Instead of facing the possibility that they were wrong, they double down. They might minimize your experience, gossip about you, or portray themselves as the true victim. This is a form of emotional self-preservation for them, but a devastating blow to the person who was harmed. Another layer to this shame is the narcissist's secret knowledge, whether conscious or subconscious, that they once again sabotaged a relationship. They are often aware, in fleeting moments, that their behavior is destructive, but they can't afford to sit with that truth. So instead, they project their shame outward. You become the problem. You become the reason things fell apart. In this way, their shame becomes a weapon instead of a path to healing. In summary, while it may look like narcissists are indifferent or proud after causing harm, they are often steeped in a shame they cannot name, let alone confront. And until they do, their cycles of hurt and denial will continue, not because they don't feel anything, but because they feel something far too threatening to admit. Narcissists are deeply invested in control, not just over situations, but over people's emotions, perceptions, and even realities. Control gives them a sense of security and superiority. It helps reinforce the false self they project to the world, someone who is untouchable, powerful, and always in charge. So when they hurt someone, their greatest hidden fear isn't necessarily that they've caused pain, it's that they might lose control over the person they hurt. This fear of losing control is often masked by arrogance, dismissiveness, or cruel indifference. But behind those defenses lies anxiety. If you begin to pull away emotionally, set boundaries, or question their authority, the narcissist's sense of control begins to slip. And because their identity is built around maintaining power and dominance, the idea of losing that grip is terrifying to them, though they would never show it. This fear often triggers reactive behaviors. You might notice sudden shifts in how they treat you, going from cold and distant to overly charming or even apologetic. They might send mixed signals, like checking in on you after hurting you, offering small gestures of kindness, or making vague promises to change. These are not necessarily signs of sincere remorse. More often, they are tactics to re-establish control. Their goal isn't to repair the relationship for your sake. It's to ensure you remain within their influence. In some cases, the narcissist might escalate their behavior when they sense they are losing control. This could look like gaslighting, guilt, tripping, or launching smear campaigns to discredit you to others. These tactics are all designed to destabilize you emotionally so that you doubt your own perceptions and once again rely on them for validation and direction. It's a psychological tug-of-war, and your independence or resistance is perceived as a direct threat. What many don't realize is that this fear of losing control also stems from the narcissist's own inner chaos. Their sense of self is fragmented, built on external validation rather than internal stability. When someone they once controlled starts to think for themselves, detach, or grow stronger, it reflects a kind of emotional abandonment the narcissist is often terrified of. But instead of processing that fear in a healthy way, they try to override it with dominance. Even in cases where the narcissist discards the other person first, coldly cutting ties or pretending not to care, the fear of losing control can still persist. They may monitor your social media, ask mutual friends about you, or unexpectedly reappear in your life after weeks or months. This isn't necessarily about love or regret. It's about reclaiming the psychological upper hand they believe they lost. To the narcissist, control equals safety. Losing control means vulnerability, exposure, and the unraveling of the carefully constructed persona they hide behind. So, when they hurt you, their secret fear isn't about your pain, it's about the power dynamic shifting. And that loss of control, even if they caused it, can feel like a threat they must urgently neutralize. One of the most baffling and painful things about dealing with a narcissist is how they respond after they've hurt you. Rather than showing regret, many narcissists react with irritation, anger, or outright resentment, not at themselves for causing harm, but at you for daring to feel hurt, express emotions, or hold them accountable. It's a twisted dynamic. They injure you, and then they resent you for bleeding. This reaction stems from the narcissist's deep-seated belief that they are above reproach. In their minds, they are the central figure in every situation, the one who sets the rules, defines the narrative, and controls the emotional atmosphere. So when you react with pain, sadness, or even calm confrontation, it challenges their illusion of dominance. Your emotional response implies that their behavior was unacceptable, and that is something they refuse to tolerate. Instead of seeing your response as valid, they often interpret it as a personal attack. They may think you're overreacting, being dramatic, or trying to manipulate them by making them feel guilty. In fact, one of the most common projections narcissists engage in is accusing others of the very things they are doing. They might call you manipulative when you're simply asking for honesty. They might say you are too sensitive when your response is a natural reaction to cruelty. This is a defense mechanism designed to shift blame away from themselves and put you on the defensive. The resentment a narcissist feels for your reaction is closely tied to their intolerance for vulnerability, yours and their own. When you show emotion, it forces them to face a truth they don't want to acknowledge, that they've hurt someone, that their actions have consequences, and that they are not as flawless or in control as they pretend to be. This creates cognitive dissonance, and rather than resolve it with empathy or accountability, they resolve it with anger. You may also notice that narcissists often try to shut down your emotional responses. They may roll their eyes, change the subject, walk away mid-conversation, or mock your feelings. All of these are attempts to devalue your reaction and reinforce the idea that your emotions are irrelevant, excessive, or inconvenient. This is especially damaging in close relationships because it trains you to suppress your emotions in order to avoid conflict, a dynamic that plays directly into the narcissist's hands. At the root of this resentment is the narcissist's fragile ego. They cannot accept the idea that they are flawed or capable of harm, because to do so would threaten the false self they cling to. When you react emotionally to their behavior, it forces them, if only for a second, to see themselves through your eyes. And what they see is someone who causes pain. Rather than face that, they get angry at you for reminding them. In some cases, this resentment can evolve into punishment. The narcissist may become colder, more distant, or retaliatory after you express that you're hurt. They might ghost you, undermine you in front of others, or withhold affection, all to teach you a lesson for challenging them. This is not just about avoiding accountability. It's about reasserting dominance by making you regret showing emotion in the first place. In short, a narcissist's resentment for your reaction is not just emotional immaturity. It's a deliberate rejection of your right to feel, and it reinforces the toxic pattern where only their emotions, needs, and perspectives are allowed to matter. Narcissists project an image of unwavering confidence, superiority, and emotional invincibility. They appear to glide through life as if untouched by self, doubt, or regret, often portraying themselves as more successful, more intelligent, and more desirable than everyone around them. But this carefully curated image is just that, a mask, and behind it lies a profound, often hidden sense of insecurity. At their core, narcissists struggle with a fragile and unstable sense of self. While they may seem inflated and self-assured on the outside, internally they are plagued by doubts about their worth, desirability, and competence. This deep insecurity often begins in childhood, where the narcissist may have been emotionally neglected, overly criticized, or even excessively praised without conditions. As a result, they never developed an internal sense of self-worth. They learned instead to perform for validation. When a narcissist hurts you, it's not always because they hate you or enjoy watching you suffer, though it can feel that way. Sometimes it's because your existence, your independence, or your emotional needs shine a light on the very insecurities they've spent their lives trying to hide. Your presence threatens the lie they tell themselves, that they are always in control, always right, and never vulnerable. For instance, if you ask for more honesty or point out an inconsistency in their behavior, it can trigger a cascade of internal panic. Not because they don't know they're being dishonest, but because your awareness of it exposes them. And for someone with such a fragile ego, exposure equals annihilation. Rather than face their own flaws, they attack yours. They might call you needy, insecure, or overly emotional. In doing so, they deflect attention away from their own imperfections and cast themselves as superior once again. The insecurity behind the mask also explains why narcissists are so dependent on external validation, what psychologists call narcissistic supply. They need constant praise, admiration, and attention to temporarily silence their inner critic. But no amount of external affirmation ever truly satisfies them. The moment the attention fades, their self-doubt creeps back in, driving them to seek out the next source of validation. This creates a toxic cycle where they manipulate or hurt others to maintain the illusion of control, even though it only deepens their internal instability. You might also notice that narcissists struggle when others succeed or grow, especially if that person was once under their control. If you heal, set boundaries, or even thrive without them, it can stir intense insecurity within them. It forces them to confront a truth they try to avoid, that they are not indispensable and that others can live, and live well, without them. Rather than accept this truth with humility or introspection, they often react with bitterness, sabotage, or attempts to diminish your achievements. Another layer to their insecurity is that many narcissists actually envy the very qualities in others that they lack. Your emotional depth, empathy, self-awareness, or resilience may irritate them, not because those traits are weak, but because they want them. They want to be seen as kind, wise, and emotionally balanced, but they don't know how to be those things. So instead, they devalue those qualities or punish you for embodying them. Perhaps the cruelest irony is that their insecurity not only drives their harmful behavior, it also prevents them from acknowledging it. To admit they are insecure would be to admit weakness, and to do that would unravel the entire persona they have built. So instead, they continue to wear the mask, often hurting others in the process, all while secretly battling a fear that they are unlovable, unworthy, and never enough. One of the least discussed, but most revealing, truths about narcissists is this: they are often deeply jealous of the very people they try to control or tear down. And what they envy most is not superficial success or beauty, but something much more threatening to their fragile ego: your emotional strength, independence, and authenticity. These are qualities they secretly crave but cannot genuinely possess or sustain. So rather than admire you, they attempt to undermine you. When you show resilience in the face of their manipulation, when you recover from their emotional games, or when you begin to set boundaries, it unsettles the narcissist. To them, strength in someone else, especially someone they thought they had power over, feels like a direct insult. It makes them feel small, irrelevant, and out of control. And rather than reflect on why they feel that way, they turn that discomfort outward through subtle sabotage, criticism, or emotional withdrawal. This jealousy is often carefully hidden. On the surface, they might pretend to be proud of you or act indifferent to your progress. But underneath, they are seething with envy. They resent the fact that you can be emotionally grounded without relying on them. They hate that you can feel deeply and vulnerably without being consumed by shame. Your ability to self-reflect, to heal, and to grow reminds them of everything they suppress within themselves. Narcissists are constantly comparing themselves to others, even if they don't admit it. Because their identity is externally constructed, their sense of worth is fragile and depends on feeling superior. So when someone close to them, especially someone they once emotionally dominated, starts to rise in self-worth, it challenges their self-image. You become a living contradiction to the narrative they want to believe, that they are always on top, always the smartest, always the one in control. Sometimes this jealousy becomes active sabotage. The narcissist might downplay your accomplishments, shift the focus back to themselves, or make subtle remarks designed to plant doubt in your mind. For example, if you share exciting news, they might respond with, "That's nice, but don't get ahead of yourself," or "We'll see how long that lasts." These are not harmless comments. They are deliberate efforts to dim your light because its brightness makes them feel insecure and exposed. In relationships, this jealousy can also manifest as competition. Instead of being a supportive partner, friend, or family member, the narcissist may try to one-up you or dismiss your progress altogether. They might mimic your ideas, steal your spotlight, or even try to take credit for your growth, just to restore their sense of dominance. It's not just about admiration gone wrong. It's about resentment that you are becoming someone they either can't control or can't become themselves. What's even more painful is that this jealousy often comes from someone you once trusted, someone whose validation may have mattered deeply to you. So when they start undermining you for growing, healing, or becoming emotionally self-sufficient, it can feel like betrayal. But in reality, it's a reflection of their inner lack, not your failure. The narcissist cannot tolerate someone outgrowing their influence. So instead of working on their own deficiencies, they attempt to shrink the person who makes them feel small. But the truth is, their jealousy is actually a backhanded compliment. It means that your strength, your integrity, and your resilience shine in ways that expose their internal void, something they will never admit but always feel. To truly understand a narcissist's behavior, especially after they've hurt you, you have to understand the concept of narcissistic supply. This is the emotional fuel narcissists need to sustain their inflated self-image. It can come in the form of attention, admiration, praise, fear, or even conflict. Anything that confirms to them that they matter, that they're in control, or that they still have power over someone. So when a narcissist hurts you, it might appear as though they don't care or that they've simply moved on. But beneath that surface-level detachment often lies a hidden desperation, a fear that their supply is being cut off. Especially if you begin to distance yourself emotionally, withdraw your attention, or start to see them for who they really are. It threatens the supply chain they rely on to feel important and validated. This desperation doesn't always look like panic in the traditional sense. It can show up in subtler, more manipulative ways. A narcissist may suddenly reappear with charm, apologies, or declarations of love, not because they've had a genuine change of heart, but because they sense that their influence over you is slipping. You may receive a late night message, a random check-in, or even a breadcrumb of affection designed to reel you back in. This is often referred to as hoovering, named after the vacuum cleaner, because they are trying to suck you back into the cycle to restore their access to supply. But the supply they seek doesn't have to be positive. Even your anger, confusion, or emotional distress can serve them. As long as you're reacting, engaging, and focusing on them, they feel alive, seen, and significant. This is why some narcissists seem to provoke drama or chaos. It keeps them at the center of your emotional world, even if the attention is negative. In their mind, being hated is better than being ignored. The fear of losing this supply is especially intense when they realize that you are starting to see through their facade. The moment you begin to assert boundaries, gain clarity, or stop seeking their approval, the narcissist's inner alarm bells go off. Not because they're truly concerned about your well-being, but because you are threatening their emotional lifeline. They can't bear the idea of no longer being relevant, no longer being the one who dictates your emotional state. This desperation can lead to erratic behavior. One moment they may act as if they don't care about you at all, and the next, they might shower you with attention or even beg for reconciliation. These mixed signals aren't signs of genuine emotional turmoil, they are tactics. They are trying to figure out what strategy will restore the dynamic where they are in control, and you are emotionally dependent. In some cases, if a narcissist senses that they can no longer extract supply from you, they will begin grooming someone else, often while still trying to keep you on the hook. This is not about love, it's about survival. They are constantly scanning for new sources of attention, admiration, and emotional energy. But even as they line up replacements, many narcissists remain haunted by the loss of the supply you once gave them, especially if you were particularly empathic, forgiving, or emotionally generous. Ultimately, narcissists are addicts, but instead of drugs or alcohol, their addiction is to validation. And like any addict, when they sense that their supply is drying up, they panic, they scheme, they return. They manipulate. But what they almost never do is face the emptiness that created the need for that supply in the first place. Despite the coldness, arrogance, and seeming emotional indifference narcissists often display after hurting someone, many of them carry a deeply buried, toxic sense of shame. But unlike healthy shame, which can lead to remorse, accountability, and growth, narcissistic shame is so overwhelming and unbearable that they refuse to consciously acknowledge it. Instead, they deny it, project it onto others, or bury it beneath layers of blame, entitlement, and superiority. This hidden shame is often rooted in early emotional wounds. Experiences of rejection, humiliation, conditional love, or emotional neglect that were never processed or healed. Rather than learning to deal with those feelings, narcissists construct a false self, a grandiose persona that appears strong, superior, and unbothered. This persona exists to protect them from ever having to face the fragile, vulnerable self that lies underneath. But the shame doesn't disappear, it just goes underground, shaping their thoughts, behavior, and especially how they respond to conflict or emotional exposure. When a narcissist hurts you deep down, a part of them often knows what they did was wrong, or at least that it would be perceived as wrong by others. But admitting that would mean acknowledging a flaw in themselves, and doing so would cause the buried shame to surface. Since they don't have the emotional tools to manage that shame in a healthy way, they resort to psychological defenses. They might blame you, twist the narrative, minimize your pain, or accuse you of making things up. These tactics aren't just manipulative, they're protective mechanisms to avoid the unbearable weight of self-condemnation. In fact, the more hurtful or unfair their behavior was, the more they need to rewrite the story in their favor. To them, the emotional pain they caused you becomes evidence not of their cruelty, but of your weakness or oversensitivity. If they can convince themselves, and others, that you deserved it, misunderstood them, or were being dramatic, they don't have to deal with the shame of being the villain. Their lack of accountability isn't a lack of awareness as much as it is a refusal to face their own emotional fragility. You might see this shame surface in moments when their mask slips, when they're caught in a lie, exposed in public, or confronted with undeniable evidence of their wrongdoing. In these rare moments, you may witness flashes of self-loathing, defensiveness, or rage that seem disproportionate to the situation. That's because the shame they've spent a lifetime avoiding is suddenly staring them in the face. But instead of owning it, they attack or retreat. They might shut down, lash out, or discard the person making them feel exposed. Anything to avoid sitting with the feeling that they are fundamentally flawed or unworthy. This toxic shame also fuels their ongoing need for control, validation, and superiority. If they can dominate others, they don't have to feel inferior. If they can make others feel ashamed, they can temporarily escape their own. This is why narcissists often criticize, belittle, or mock others. It's not just cruelty. It's an attempt to offload their internal shame onto someone else. It's emotional displacement. What makes this even more complex is that, on some level, many narcissists are aware that something inside them feels off or broken. But rather than explore those feelings with curiosity or compassion, they deny their existence. Because facing them would mean unraveling the very identity they've built, a task that feels threatening, even annihilating. So they keep moving forward, acting superior, hurting others, and denying responsibility, all to protect themselves from confronting the part of them they've locked away for years, possibly decades. And while they may never say it out loud or show it openly, that buried shame, the shame they'll never acknowledge, is often what drives them to hurt others in the first place.